Hey, welcome back to the Nemesis Gear Steampunked Out channel. It's been a few days since I've done a video for you, and the reason is I've been working on something new, and I have started playing with resin for the first time. I haven't ever really worked with it before. I've had some ideas that I've kind of wanted to do for a while and work those into the wands, and I decided to just go ahead and give this a shot. Um, so what I've done is I have picked up a few things from the local hardware store just to kind of play around with and test out. This is the first run at this, and so I've already skipped a bunch of the wand making process because the first part's pretty much the same as all the other videos. Get it generally in the round, get my wand blade about the size I want, but now what I'm doing is I wanted to pour the resin in the handle, and so I'm leaving part of this wand before I pour it, just unshaped yet. And I've only done the grip where I'm going to pour the resin. And what I'm doing is I'm carving some kind of organic, kind of reminds me of coral, just shapes and designs in here. And I've got a carbide bit that I was using for this, and again, kind of limited, starting out with just what I could get from the hardware store. And I found the carbide bit it's not great for drilling. It's okay. It'd probably work great for metal, but with wood, it gums up really quickly and kind of heats up the wood and stuff. And so using the drill to kind of get some holes started was a little bit better, and then using the Dremel tip to kind of go in and shape the holes the way that I wanted them. Um, I've got some other bits that I've ordered, but they haven't come in yet, so I'm just kind of making do. But all in all, it took this really is edited down. I think I spent like an hour carving the holes. It was really time consuming, and the things were really small, so it was really difficult to do. I just had to go really slow and be really careful. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this up so that I can pour my resin in here. And so I'm just like leaving a little slit at the top here that I can pour the resin in. I've taped up the rest, and there's not a lot of weight here, so I'm not terribly worried about the resin leaking out anywhere for such a small pour. And I'm pretty happy with the color of this. I added a few drops of blue alcohol dye and then some blue mica powder. Uh, and this is just some basic starter stuff that I got from like my local craft store to kind of play around with. And of course, naturally, I mixed up way too much the first time. Um, but I thought, getting this poured in there, I'm trying to remove as many bubbles as possible. So I thought, well, I'll tap this. And that seemed to work pretty well. I did have a couple of tiny bubbles I had to go in and repair later, but no big deal. But to get rid of this extra resin, I grabbed a few scrap pieces of wood I had really quick and just made up a couple of gaps so I could pour the rest of that resin in, and kind of gives me something to play around, test out. I might turn that into a wand later. I don't know. The main thing that I'm trying to do right now is to kind of get a feel for how it mixes, how it pours, those types of things. And this particular resin is it's supposed to set in 30 minutes and cure in 72 hours. This is a 24 hours later, and I just had like a little scrap I poured to the side. You can see it's rather flexible. Um, and it also shrinks, so I'm glad I over poured on my wand. But you can see how in my little scrap piece there, it actually shrank down into the wood to lower surface, but shouldn't be too big a deal. But anyways, we'll get the tape off this thing, and also going back to speeding it up 400% again. But I was really happy with this when I took the tape off, and I could see it was a little bit translucent. It had that sparkly mica powder in there, so it had the swirls and stuff. And the downside of this is now I have to wait 72 hours before I can do anything with it because it's set, but it's still soft. So I kind of took the heavy excess off, where the slit was with just the belt sander really quick, and now I'm going in with the skew, and it's my first time turning resin on the lathe, and I got to say, I wasn't a fan. Um, the first thing that I noticed is when I started getting into this, those little ribbons that came off, they're they wrap onto everything, and I have to stop to get them out of the way multiple times when you're doing that detail work. Imagine if I was, doing like I've seen the videos where they're doing bowls and stuff, and you're doing really large areas. It's not as big of a deal, but boy, getting it down like right at this joint where I'm working now, those little guys would just wrap around there, and there was no way to, like, even you try to cut them off, they would just scoot back the other way. So you had to stop. I had to stop the lathe multiple times until I get down to where it's just mostly wood. And this is a little bit easier to work here because the resin was broken up by the wood in between, so it wasn't coming off in big ribbons. But really liked how this turned out. I went ahead and just finished shaping the wood here. I'm not sure why I didn't get that on video, but honestly, it's pretty much the same as the other Wandworking videos from this point, except now I've got to figure out how I want to polish this resin. So I'm wet sanding the resin and just kind of buffing that up, and I'm trying to figure out how I can put these into production. And I could probably go, a really high grit and polish it, but it's going to take a long time. So this is up to a 600 grit wet sand, and you can see at this point it's not super shiny. So what I did is I finished this with a varnish for this particular test piece, and that's going to bring the clearness back out. Now I only did the varnish on the grip, on the handle itself, and of course, me being me, I like that oil and wax finish for the rest of it. So I did oil the blade of the wand, and I'm going in and giving everything a nice wax coat to finish it off. So I had to sand in between coats of varnish and try to get it as smooth as possible. And it's not that mere glassy finish that I think would be nice. So I'm going to play around with some different stuff. But honestly, I really like the shape. I really like the color. You can see from the final picture here that overall, I'm really happy with this. I think it's definitely a sellable piece. I think I'm going to have to work a little bit more on my finishes and, playing around with, how to polish that resin and find a happy medium between what I think is, acceptable that people enjoy. Because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I could spend another hour just trying to get the wand, all perfectly shiny and like, glossy and everything else. But again, this video is rather short. It's not even 8 minutes yet, and I think that I have probably around 3.5 hours of footage, something like that. So it's really rather time consuming, plus all the dry time and stuff in between, having to wait for stuff to dry and cure. So anyways, I hope you liked the video. Definitely check back for more and give me a like, and definitely subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And I've got some more resin projects I'm currently working on, waiting for things to cure. So hope you'll come back and check out some more later. Thanks for watching.